The story opens with a boy casually announcing that his mother made seaweed soup for him today, something he had mentioned to her only because he had an exam. His friend reacts with disbelief, asking what could possibly be wrong with seaweed soup. Another friend immediately jumps in, wondering if he truly doesn't know the superstition everyone talks about, how eating seaweed soup before an exam is considered unlucky. They tease him, calling him a complete freak for not realizing it. While they bicker, the female protagonist glances down at her phone, and a familiar frustration rises in her chest. She had actually believed that same superstition, and because she happened to eat seaweed soup that very morning, no matter how hard she had studied, she ended up scoring the lowest grade in the entire class. Misfortune seems to cling to her like a shadow. Her ex-boyfriend had been completely fine with their relationship, but right after she bought him a pair of shoes, he abruptly asked to break up. A centipede once appeared in her house, and in her panic she became the victim of a voice phishing scam and accidentally emptied her bank account. And worst of all, the morning she ate seaweed soup before her exam, she earned a big, humiliating 0. She chalks it all up to her strangely extraordinary bad luck and almost supernatural sixth sense for disaster. But then something even stranger catches her attention, a comment on Instagram from someone claiming they used an elevator to travel to another world. She scoffs, assuming he must have simply ended up on the wrong floor. Yet curiosity gets the better of her. Now she stands inside an elevator, trying every floor the commenter mentioned: the 4th, the 2nd, the 6th, and finally the 10th. She expects nothing, but the moment she presses the combination, the elevator jerks violently. It moves with an abrupt, unnatural force that sends alarm through her mind. For a second she wonders what in the world is happening. Then, with a deafening crash, the doors burst open, not to a familiar hallway, but into a grand manor. All around her, noblemen and women stare in confusion and shock. She finds herself sprawled on top of someone, and before she can even process her landing, someone shouts for others to stop standing around and go to the Duke at once. There is blood smeared across his face. The Duke demands to know if the figure who fell from the sky is an assassin. A servant hurriedly explains that she is no assassin at all. Based on her strange clothing and her completely bewildered expression, she seems nothing more than a miner who has simply looked in the wrong direction or perhaps ended up in the wrong place. The Duke, dismissive and annoyed, waves the matter aside and declares that it isn't his blood anyway. But his irritation swiftly turns to fury as he orders that she be banished from his manor immediately. He demands that she be demoted to some distant village area and ensures that she never sets foot inside his home again. And just like that, from the very moment she arrives in this world, her fate is sealed. She is condemned to the lowest, most mundane existence it has to offer, a life of labor, dirt, and hardship. Yet Yeoreum, bewildered but practical, tells herself that it is not the worst thing that could happen. After all, she was never truly a maid in the first place, and she has far more urgent concerns weighing on her. She has literally fallen into an unfamiliar, alien world and has no idea how to return. That fear presses down on her more intensely than any insult or demotion. Overwhelmed, she finally breaks down, shouting that she wants to go home, that she is terrified. Her tears spill freely, but they last only a moment, because her stay in this strange world is limited. She only has half a day. Exactly 12 hours later, she sniffles as her surroundings dissolve, and suddenly she is back inside the elevator, staring at a confused high school student who has just stepped in, someone who has no idea where she has been. She has finally returned to reality. She is relieved to have made it back, though the timing could not be worse. Still shaken, she promises herself she is never going to attempt anything like that again. Or so Yeoreum believes until freshman year arrives. That is when her desire to avoid studying becomes so strong that she escapes to the other world every single day. And there, something unexpected happens. She discovers that she truly loves farming. Adorable sprouts respond to her touch, growing from her affection alone. Juicy, abundant fruits flourish under her care. The satisfaction fills her chest so completely that she can hardly imagine anything better. She realizes she could spend her entire life farming and be perfectly happy. She even hopes the community farm back in her real world might lend her a bit of their land. But they refuse to accept students, no matter how passionate they are. Her favorite farming simulation game has already taught her that solid character stats are essential for success, so now that she is serious about this whole farming path, she decides she will devote half of each day to the other world, honing her agricultural skills there. She is determined, absolutely determined, to become the best farmer anyone has ever seen. This determination is interrupted when someone scoffs at what she is planning to do. Her teacher glances at her career survey and reminds her that it will be added to her permanent records. How can she possibly not take it seriously? Yeoreum insists truthfully that she is indeed being serious. After graduation, she intends to move to the countryside and become a farmer. Her teacher only stares at her, asking if she truly believes farming is easy, and warns that if she does not redo the survey by tomorrow, she will be sentenced to bathroom cleaning duty. When she returns to the other world, she is still irritated that her teacher assumed she was joking. She completed that career survey with the straightest expression any human has ever worn. But if she writes something she does not believe, the teacher will accuse her of lying and tell her to stop pretending. She cannot stand that kind of teacher, such a nuisance. Someone suddenly calls out to her, using the name Margaret. The word makes her flinch. That is the identity she goes by in this world. She turns to find Benita, her fellow farm worker. Benita explains that she had been calling her repeatedly, but she assumed Yeoreum's mother was too busy picking tomatoes to hear anything. Yeoreum still isn't used to being called Margaret, but she remembers exactly how she chose the name. Everyone in this world uses English names, and using her Korean one would raise suspicion. She had panicked, trying to think of anything that sounded natural, and the name that popped into her mind happened to be written on the cookie she ate the day before, Margaret. She had introduced herself confidently, relieved that she had not taken inspiration from something disastrously embarrassing, like calamari chips. Benita informs her that Mr. Tom needs some tomatoes for a delivery to the royal family and has offered a higher price for them. If Yeoreum wants, she can come along. Yeoreum accepts immediately. With a bag full of tomatoes so large it nearly towers over her, she prepares to head out. She sets the tomato sack down, believing this should finally be the last of the load. Benita watches her with gratitude and remarks that she has done an impressive amount of work. Thanks to Yeoreum, she didn't have to lift a single finger. Yeoreum assures Benita that she is always happy to help. After all, she once helped them sell their apples for twice the usual price, and tonight's dinner is on her as thanks. But before that, she plans to buy some seedlings she has been eyeing for quite a while. As she hurries along, she ends up bumping into a man carrying several boxes. He thanks her for preventing the stack from toppling over and explains that he needs to keep moving these boxes, so he cannot stop to chat. Still, he warns her to be careful behind him. The brief encounter makes her pause. Not only is Mr. Tom unusually busy today, but so is the entire village. She wonders whether some special event is happening. Benita looks at her with mild disbelief and asks what she means. It is obviously for the upcoming event. She assumes Yeoreum must have no idea since she always leaves work exactly on the dot. In reality, it's less about punctuality and more about being forcibly yanked back to her real-world reality. Benita decides to explain properly. She begins by asking if Yeoreum knows about the Calico Kingdom, their neighboring nation. Within the next year, that kingdom and their own empire will be hosting a joint comeback tournament. The entire region is rooting for Nile the warrior's victory, and a massive festival will take place tomorrow to pray for his success. Yeoreum can't help but wonder whether a person like that truly exists. Benita nearly gasps in shock. How could Yeoreum not know who Nile is? Has she not seen his face plastered across the village? Benita reminds her that although she has only lived here for a year, this is information she absolutely needs to know. 2 years ago, a red dragon appeared, plunging the nation into chaos and flames. The Empire and its forces tried desperately to suppress the beast, but the situation seemed hopeless. Even the royal family was preparing to abandon the capital in search of safety. Then, just when despair reached its peak, Nile suddenly appeared. He defeated the dragon swiftly, saving the Empire from destruction. It took him less than an hour to subdue the creature, and even now the dragon responds only to him. Yeoreum attempts to calm Benita down, but Benita is far too overwhelmed with admiration. In the presence of their country's celebrated hero, even a souvenir keychain becomes significant. She tries to hand one to Yeoreum, insisting that it is only because of Nile that they can farm peacefully on this land at all. Yeoreum silently thinks that if everyone is this obsessed with him, he must indeed be an exceptionally talented warrior. Still, it has nothing to do with her, and she chooses not to dwell on it. The narrative shifts, focusing on the image of Nile once more. The view tightens, the picture sharpening again and again until it reveals a modern-day high school student. His name is Doyun, although in this world he is known as Nile the warrior. If he possesses one defining trait beyond his strength, it is his extreme susceptibility to superstition. Unfortunately for him, he has no idea that the very same supernatural phenomenon affecting Yeoreum is also about to affect him. The national hero of the Rakata Empire is only 15 years old when he single-handedly subdues the dragon that once threatened the nation 3 years earlier. Now, This hero known to the world as Nailed, but whose real name is Doyun, finds himself standing inside a vast castle. He cannot fathom how he ended up here. He steps out of what seems to be an elevator and wonders since when his apartment building has such an enormous public garden. The scorching heat overwhelms him, and with no cell service and a phone that refuses to work, he feels even more displaced. As he tries to make sense of his surroundings, the sky abruptly darkens. At first, he welcomes the shade, expecting relief from the heat until he turns around and finds himself face to face with a colossal dragon. Any ordinary person would run for their life at the sight of such a creature, yet Doyun does the exact opposite. He gasps in awe and clings to the dragon's massive form, overcome by how irresistibly adorable it is. To him, reptiles only become more endearing the larger they grow. He examines the creature closely, wondering if it is related to the water dragon or perhaps to Cacus. Maybe, he thinks, it has wandered out here simply to sunbathe. Tropical fauna, after all, require regular exposure to sunlight. Doyun's passion for reptiles is precisely what once transformed him into a hero, and that instinct now takes over. He laments that his parents never allowed him to adopt a reptile, even though he has always wanted one. Gently peeling a sausage, he offers it to the dragon as a snack. Suddenly, a group of armed individuals rushes onto the scene. One of them drops his weapon in astonishment, proclaiming that their long-awaited hero has returned. They insist that he has effortlessly extinguished the flames that have tormented their land for 2 years. They kneel before him, praising him as their great savior. Doyun tries to explain that they are misunderstanding everything and that this is his first time here, but the knight leading them only grows more exuberant. They celebrate his sudden arrival, convinced that he has defeated their formidable foe the moment he stepped into their country. If not their hero, they argue, who else could he possibly be? This, they proclaim, is the bravest warrior alive. After 12 long hours, Doyun finally returns to his own world and vows never again to be transported to another realm. Yet one thought refuses to leave him: the dragon was impossibly adorable. He still cannot believe those people mistook that gentle, charming creature for a wicked monster. Visiting the dragon for 12 hours a day becomes his greatest source of joy. He realizes he cannot simply abandon him. Back in his everyday life, Yeoreum approaches him and tells him that they need to head to the science lab because their teacher requested it. She explains that she was asked to inform the class monitor that the 6th period will be held there today. Doyun thanks her. He remembers she had been arguing with the teacher earlier, and as she looks at him thoughtfully, she asks what his dream job is. He wonders why she is asking, but she only says it is curiosity. He begins to answer that he wants to become an exotic animal expert, but he cuts himself off abruptly and instead claims he wants to be a lawyer. She questions the sudden shift in exotic animal. Lawyer? He replies that it is simply because his parents are lawyers, as are all of his older brothers. Yet the reality remains far less flattering for Doyun. His family constantly taunts him, insisting that he should be able to become a lawyer as effortlessly as his older brothers. Yeoreum tells him he is a good son, and she assumes his parents must also want him to pursue law. He confirms that becoming a lawyer is exactly what they have always demanded from him. She then asks which university he is aiming for, and he casually answers that it will probably be one of the top 2. But then a realization dawns on him: she is actually filling out her own career survey using his answers. She explains that their teacher will immediately notice if she copies one of their friends, and that she spent a great deal of time thinking about her original answers, only for the teacher to refuse them and order her to redo everything. Doyun warns her that she will definitely get caught if she copies his form anyway. She returns to asking about his dream university, and he tells her it will probably be hardwired. She assumes he must be an exceptionally gifted student, but she has no idea that this is not the case. His mother has always insisted that he become like his brothers, and none of this pressure is new. His brothers constantly received awards, yet the truth is that he is nothing like them. He cannot understand why everyone, his parents, his siblings, and now even the people of another empire, keep expecting so much from him. All he did was take care of a dragon, and now he finds himself thrust into some kind of combat tournament. To make matters worse, the people have portrayed him as a rugged, brawny swordsman. They even invented strange titles for him and invaded his privacy by sending an overwhelming flood of letters every day. He worries about what will happen once they discover he is nothing like the hero they imagine. If he performs poorly in the tournament, all their admiration will turn into harsh criticism. He knows it. People always burden others with impossibly high expectations, only to end up disappointed. He could simply return to reality, but if he does, the little dragon will surely end up dying. Frustrated, he bangs his head and mutters that people are the worst. He should have realized it from the moment they persecuted the dragon. He would never travel to the other world if he weren't forced to, but it is painfully clear how the dragon would be treated if Doyun were not there to protect him. Now, back in the kingdom once more, he begins to consider escape. If it were just him, slipping away to a nearby city might suffice, but traveling with the dragon means they would be caught immediately. That leaves only one option: the territory beyond the borders, the neighboring land of Calico. It is an undeveloped region with almost no foot traffic, a place where the dragon could live freely. Doyun gathers a handful of jewels to serve as an emergency fund. As the palace grows busy with dinner preparations, he decides that the time has come. The hero must depart. He whispers a quiet farewell to everything. As he begins his escape, he spots someone ahead. To his shock, it is Yeoreum. He wonders how on earth she ended up there. He had timed everything perfectly, planning to slip out while the guards changed shifts, but now he cannot descend without being seen. She appears confused, as though she has lost her way. Outsiders are strictly forbidden from walking that path, and at this rate, the guards will arrive and discover both of them. To make matters even worse, the rope he is using snaps. He plunges downward and lands directly on top of Yeoreum. He quickly sits up, startled, and apologizes to her. Yeoreum jumps back, shouting at him, while Nile hurriedly apologizes, insisting he was simply in a rush. But she immediately turns her attention to her tomatoes, horrified to discover that they are all ruined. She was supposed to deliver them tonight. She shoots him a sharp glare, asking if he has any idea how long it takes to grow even a single tomato. Then her eyes shift to the pockets of his clothing, and she suddenly orders him not to move. She insists she must salvage her treasured Terra Tower tomato if she can, so he had better remove those clothes right away. At that exact moment, several knights arrive, confused by the commotion. They demand to know why a conversation is taking place here, since this area is not open to the public and is reserved for imperial personnel. But then their eyes fall on the scene before them: two young people, disheveled, with torn or messy clothing, and a flustered maiden with flushed cheeks. The knights immediately jump to the wrong conclusion. One of them hastily turns away, mortified, and apologizes for interrupting the great Sir Niles. He declares that they have committed a grave sin by stumbling upon this indecent moment. Nile shouts that they have completely misunderstood and begs them to wait, but the situation sinks into an awkward silence. Wonderful. Yeoreum calls out again, wanting to settle the cost of the ruined tomatoes. Nile hands her a gold coin, leaving her stunned, as though she has just struck the jackpot. He adds that since they are unlikely to meet again, he will personally clear up the misunderstanding with the guards, so she does not need to worry. Yeoreum gives him an enthusiastic thumbs up, saying it is completely fine. She trusts anyone with such a charitable heart, because money brings happiness. Well, Nile thinks, he will now have to find another destination for himself and the dragon tomorrow. Fortunately, he still has plenty of time before the combat tournament. The next day, the entire city buzzes with gossip as newspapers sensationalize the newest scandals surrounding Nile the hero. Headlines boldly promise an inside scoop, proclaiming that Nile has been sighted with a mysterious woman near the palace's rear gate, and exit strictly reserved for the apprehension of ordinary citizens, never for honored guests. The article insists that the numerous pieces of jewelry found in his bag were gifts for his secret lover. Nile stiffens as he stares at the paper, frustration rising like a flame. What in the world is this nonsense? He thinks. A candid photograph paired with a completely fabricated story. He has no idea who concocted such drivel, but he recognizes immediately that he must straighten out the misunderstanding before it spirals further. Yet, the moment he begins imagining the situation, he realizes how hopeless it appears. If the broadcast team questions him, they will ask why he used a prohibited exit. He imagines telling them that the woman is his fiancée, someone he hired to keep their relationship discreet because he feared rumors would make her uncomfortable. He envisions claiming that he could not wear his official palace attire while sneaking out to meet her, and that the jewelry truly were gifts for her after a long separation. It is a flimsy story, but at least it is not incriminating. She doesn't live in the palace, after all, and therefore is unlikely to attract unnecessary attention. And if she simply tells everyone that they have since broken off the engagement, then the matter may dissolve quietly. Resolute, he decides to act before rumors spread any further. Meanwhile, at Charlotte Manor, the Duke is nearly trembling with anticipation. He has always detested Nile's noble facade, the way the hero parades righteousness while the Duke believes he is anything but. And now he learns that Nile has allegedly been meeting a common woman behind the public's back. It is too perfect an opportunity to ignore. One of the Duke's men assures him that the information is reliable. He witnessed the pair himself, a lady of simple origins who had come to the palace to deliver ingredients. The Duke's delight blooms instantly. If Nile has offered such a convenient opening for disgrace, then it would be discourteous, almost rude, not to exploit it. He commands his household to locate the girl featured in the article and extend the warmest possible welcome. As the Duke, he declares, it is his solemn duty to honor the beloved of the hero who saved their empire and to make sure that the news of her identity reaches every corner of the city. The very next day, a knock at his door announces new developments. His servants report that they have found the girl he requested. She is a farmer tending crops in the Duke's own territory. However, there is one complication. The Duke dismisses the concern immediately noble or common. A woman's status is irrelevant to his plan. He orders them to bring her before him without delay. But the maid clarifies that the issue lies not in the girl's station. If he recalls correctly, 2 years ago a young maid had been demoted after accidentally falling on top of him in a mortifying mishap. It is that girl. That girl is the farmer they have found. Duke Charlotte Sole Duke of the Empire rises from humble origins to become the most formidable man in the realm. With the king's unwavering trust and no crown prince to overshadow him, he once stood first in line for the throne. But everything shifts the moment that trust fractures into two. Unlike the Duke, who has never hesitated to soil his hands for power, Nile the hero maintains an immaculate reputation, winning the affection of the people and slowly becoming a thorn lodged deep in the Duke's side. And now, a supposed secret love affair emerges, an opportunity the Duke views as a once-in-a-lifetime opening. His plan is elegant and merciless: tarnish Nile's flawless reputation and simultaneously forge a bond with the hero's lover, hoping to uncover Nile's greatest weakness. Yet fate twists cruelly. The woman in the article is none other than her, the girl he personally demoted to servant status 2 years earlier, back when she still worked in the palace. He fully expects her to harbor nothing but resentment toward him. As she stands before him, he prepares himself to witness the rightful bitterness etched on her face. But instead, she steps forward and takes hold of him, greeting him warmly as if they were longtime acquaintances reunited. She apologizes for not having come sooner to offer her respects. The Duke is briefly stunned, thrown entirely off balance. She should resent him. He is the one who had her expelled from the palace. Yet she expresses not a shred of ill will. She claims she would never dare to resent him. Since leaving, she has discovered her talent for nurturing crops, claiming she possesses the greenest of thumbs now. Without his intervention, she insists, she would never have known the joy of farming. In her eyes, he is her unexpected benefactor, someone to whom she owes deep gratitude. The Duke resolves that he must take responsibility for her last 2 years spent outdoors. He believes that if he is given the chance to atone properly, he will feel far more at ease seeing her restored to comfort. He proposes that she return to palace life, and she agrees without hesitation, remarking that if this will ease his conscience, then she is happy to accept. Feeling generous, the Duke further promises her farmland near the palace so that she may continue her work while living comfortably under his protection. But suddenly, the doors burst open. Nile storms into the room, calling out to the Duke, demanding to know whether he instructed the press to publish the infuriating article. Nile's temper is primed for confrontation until his voice falters. His expression shifts the instant he sees the girl standing beside the Duke. Shock overtakes him as he tries to make sense of her presence in the manor. The Duke greets him coolly, remarking on his lateness and wondering aloud whether Nile always keeps others waiting without apology. Before she can speak and clear away the misunderstandings gathering like storm clouds, Nile rushes in with a desperate explanation. He insists that she is flustered only because the Duke summoned her without warning. She stares at him, bewildered, unable to grasp what point he is trying to make. Nile, growing increasingly agitated, silently pleads for her understanding, as though his entire plan is unraveling before his eyes. The Duke observes Nile with a raised brow, noting that the hero appears far more flustered than the woman does. Yet he dismisses the matter with a wave of refined indifference. What truly matters, he announces, is the delightful news: the young lady has agreed to return to the palace. Nile's throat tightens at the revelation, a hard gulp betraying his panic, but he manages to extend his hand toward her and requests a private moment. Once they step outside, he immediately releases her hand, exhaling as though he has been holding his breath since the moment he arrived. He explains that he had been in a rush earlier, then urges her to clarify what did the Duke mean, and why is she suddenly preparing to live in the palace. She replies that the question should be his. He told her he would ensure there were no misunderstandings, yet somehow the situation has only grown worse. Nile apologizes earnestly. She recounts that the Duke offered her a comfortable life inside the palace walls, complete with farmland of her own. He must be embarrassed by people believing they're engaged, she reasons, so she intends to inform him that it was all a misunderstanding. But Nile quickly stops her. He admits that this is not what he wants. With visible difficulty, he asks her for a favor, one that he knows is excessive and outrageous. He begs her to become his lover temporarily. Her mind reels, unable to comprehend the request, until she demands to know whether he is being serious. Nile, flustered but resolute, clarifies that he means a pretend lover. He promises proper compensation, money, land, anything she desires. In fact, he even owns a vineyard in his territory that he is willing to give her entirely. The mention of a vineyard makes her eyes widen with untamed fascination. She invites him to continue, now keenly attentive. Nile confesses everything, that everyone in the palace expects a hero who is powerful, noble, and perfect, yet he is nothing more than an ordinary, unremarkable man struggling beneath the weight of their expectation. He fears failing them, fears their disappointment. That is why he attempted to flee the Charles last night, why he had bumped into her by pure accident. But once they were caught, his situation worsened. The entire kingdom now believes he was trying to escape responsibility, and the only plausible cover story is that he had been sneaking out to meet her. On his own, he would not mind taking the fall, but there is someone precious to him in the palace, someone he cannot abandon. If he wants to leave safely together with that friend, he needs time. And the only way to buy that time is to maintain the illusion of an engagement. He knows it is discourteous, shameless, even to make such a request. All he desires is a brief reprieve from the crushing expectations chained around him. A chance to breathe. A chance to rest. He doubts she will agree after hearing such a ridiculous story. Yet she accepts. She says she would be happy to help him, especially now that she has permission to farm at the palace. The favor is manageable, she insists, and Nile should stop allowing his shoulders to sag with worry. If he is to become her fiancé, then they should address each other by name. He introduces himself, now prompting her to ask whether he is truly Nile the hero. He confesses that it embarrasses him, but yes, he is the blurry man depicted on the famous poster. Meanwhile, far across the manor grounds, a plate clatters violently against the floor at Grave Manor. A young woman trembles with rage as she stares at a newspaper proclaiming Nile's engagement. She insists it is absurd, impossible. Nile is the only man she believes perfectly suited for her. Even her father promised to support their future engagement. How could he already be engaged? And how could his fiancée live in the palace? Her fury sharpens as she condemns the audacity of a commoner who fails to understand her place. This young woman, Emma, daughter of Marquis Grave, burns with indignation. The mayor attempts to interject, but she silences him with a shout, refusing to hear any excuses. What, she demands, could the Duke have been thinking, extending charity to a mere peasant? Still, she concedes bitterly that ignorance is natural in a girl so naive to palace life. Someone will have to enlighten her. And Emma decides that she herself will fulfill that duty, for it is the solemn obligation of a noble woman, she believes, to educate foolish commoners who dare to overstep. Someone suddenly slams the career report onto the table, and the teacher erupts in anger at Yeoreum's father, declaring that she explicitly instructed Yeoreum to rewrite the survey, not to copy the class monitor's answers word for word. Yeoreum gasps in disbelief, wondering how the teacher possibly figured it out, and even suspects for a moment that the woman might be some sort of shaman. The teacher reacts by smacking her lightly with a book, insisting that Yeoreum truly believed she could get away with such an obvious act, and then she turns sharply toward Nile, scolding him as well, saying he should have stopped Yeoreum instead of helping her. Yeoreum hurriedly explains that the only reason she copied the monitor was because the teacher would never believe her real dream, becoming a farmer. She insists she had no intention of dragging the class monitor into trouble. But the teacher lashes out again, accusing her of bringing up that farming nonsense once more, and hits her with the book again. Overwhelmed, Yeoreum shouts back, demanding the teacher actually listen for once. She asks if there is any law in the country that forces every student to attend college. She declares how much agricultural experience she has already gathered, how genuinely alive she feels after spending hours outside rather than suffocating inside a cramped school building. She argues that this, to her, is what freedom looks like. She affectionately calls her plants her suited crops, and insists that even if she did not attend an agricultural high school, she still possesses the right to work on farms. The teacher reaches the end of her patience and furiously tells her to return to class, write an apology letter, and submit it after school. Soon, Yeoreum and Nile are outside the staff room. It is Nile's first time ever being scolded like that, and Yeoreum apologizes to him, saying she never imagined the teacher would catch on so quickly. She insists he accompany her, explaining that since she dragged him into this mess, she will make it up to him with something delicious. Nile tries to brush it off, claiming it is fine, but she grabs his hand with sudden firmness, declaring that it is not fine with her at all. She truly, really wants him to come with her, and asks if he has any plans. He admits he is not busy, though he wonders why she insists on bringing him specifically. She brightens immediately, revealing that the restaurant she has in mind recently introduced a new set menu, one that requires a minimum order of 2 portions. With that practical explanation out in the open, they head off together. But Nile reminds her of the teacher's demand. She was supposed to write an apology letter. Yeoreum flinches, then stubbornly questions why she should write an apology letter for something she does not believe she did wrong. With her defiance settled, the two continue their journey. They eventually locate the restaurant and take their seats, observing how beautifully the food is presented. It tastes delicious, far too delicious, she thinks, for it to only be sold in sets of 2. She apologizes again to Nile, insisting that she truly feels bad he was dragged to the teacher's office because of her. As compensation, she offers him the limited edition panna cotta that comes with the meal. Nile insists he really is fine, but he still takes a bite, noting that it is incredibly tasty. Only then does he gently ask if she herself is alright after all that scolding, and whether she truly wants to become a farmer. His question makes her slam the table in frustration, demanding to know why he is asking and whether he also refuses to believe her dream. He tries to clarify that he is not provoking or doubting her, he is simply curious, because her career choice is undeniably uncommon. Yeoreum, with stubborn certainty, insists that of course it is not common, and that is precisely why it matters to her. It is not that Yeoreum hesitates to pursue farming because it is uncommon. Only a century ago, nearly everyone worked on farms, and she genuinely loves it. When she sees the crops she has tended to with her own hands, the sight fills her with happiness. She could not care less about the opinions of others. If she wants to do something, she will do it, no matter what her teacher says. She refuses to write her career survey, holding steadfast to her beliefs. Nile finds Yeoreum utterly fascinating. She is completely indifferent to what anyone thinks and relentlessly pursues her dreams. Compared to her, he feels ordinary, restrained, and cautious. He looks at her and realizes that she is staring at him intently, and a flicker of self-consciousness makes him wonder if there is something on his face. She shakes her head, denying it, but observing him up close, she notices that he is actually quite handsome. His features remind her of someone she met a while ago, someone whose face is almost identical to his. Perhaps, she thinks, it is simply a fairly common face. Then it strikes her he had also encountered someone who looked exactly like her just the other day. Who, then, is she to claim that his face is ordinary? The thought sparks a playful debate in their minds as they consider, half seriously, who between them has the more average appearance. After their minor skirmish with dessert flying in every direction, the two of them realize they should probably leave the restaurant before things get messy. Once outside, Nile politely bids the lady running the restaurant a good evening. He reflects inwardly that, by sheer coincidence, he happened to come along with Yeoreum, but aside from the rare moments he spends with the dragon, he cannot recall the last time he had so much fun. He calls out to Yeoreum, expressing how much he enjoyed the dessert and the time together. She smiles warmly, telling him that if he truly enjoyed it, he should do her a favor and forget about the awkwardness of the visit. Nile hesitates playfully but promises he will think about it. He mentions that he should be going and will see her again tomorrow. Yeoreum agrees, noting that she should get home as well, and they exchange a brief, cheerful farewell before stepping away from each other. Later, fate brings them together once more, and they are both surprised to see each other in the same place. At the exact same time, they exclaim in unison that they live in the same building. With no other choice, they decide to walk together, eventually reaching the elevator and pressing the same button simultaneously. Turning to face each other, Nile asks if she truly lives there. She confirms that she resides on the 7th floor, leaving him puzzled. How had he never noticed before? Nile reasons that the timing explains it. Her mother leaves for school at 9 a.m., while he leaves at 8:15. By the time the elevator reaches the 7th floor, their paths would have never crossed. They reach their respective apartments at the same time, exchanging a cautious glance and silently agreeing to be careful when using the elevator in the future. Later, at 6:50 p.m., Nile takes longer than usual reviewing his work. Perhaps the lingering effect of spending time with Yeoreum after school distracts him. He realizes that if he leaves now, he will barely make it back by 7 a.m. the next day. He decides to bring only his uniform since he will need it for school immediately afterward. Stepping out, he notices a notification on Instagram about the elevator to another world. It shows floors 11th, 8th, and 9th, and the doors are about to open. He panics slightly, realizing he has not finished pressing all the floors yet, when suddenly he notices that one of the floors is Yeoreum's room. The two of them lock eyes in utter confusion, both frozen in disbelief at the coincidence of the moment. Yeoreum glances at the clock and realizes that it is already 7. She needs to go transplant her crops before it is too late. Her current predicament is all because of that dreaded apology letter she had nothing to write, and now she is running late. She resolves that she will simply change when she gets there, likely ending up in the palace bathroom, which is where she lost track of time. The elevators complicate matters further. She knows she will have to wait, especially around dinner time, when demand is highest. She decides that she should leave as soon as she can. As the elevator doors are about to open, she plans to turn first to the corner, but then she notices Nile standing right in front of her. For a moment, she wonders why he is there, and then it hits her he is her neighbor. Flustered, she tells him that she just remembered she left something at home and that he should go first. He replies that it is fine, he will hold the elevator for her. She protests vehemently, insisting he should get going. Aren't they not busy? They can't ride the elevator together. He reassures her that he is not busy and that they are already here anyway. In truth, he knows he will have to go down with her and then get back on the elevator alone just in case. Yeoreum insists that he really does not need to wait, warning him that it might take a long time. He calmly replies that it is no problem. Her mind starts spiraling as she struggles to think of a proper excuse for her delay. Flustered, she blurts out that she has to poop the next day, a ridiculous explanation, but it is the best excuse she can think of. She slams the elevator door closed and internally scolds herself, thinking she is a complete idiot. Meanwhile, at the Grand Library of the Recruiter Kingdom, Nile ponders his next move. Except for the undeveloped forest he had mentioned earlier, there is nowhere in the Empire for a dragon to hide. Moving to another country is not an option either. His head is already spinning, but now there is also the reality of Yeoreum living next door to contend with. He keeps running into her seat partners, weekly duty partners, PE test partners, and after each encounter, he cannot stop thinking about her. The thought of bumping into her again in the elevator, especially while he is dressed in his awkward night attire, makes him anxious. Yeoreum suddenly calls out to him, breaking his spiraling thoughts. She approaches him and calls his name, making him startle and remark that she literally scared him. She explains that she actually wants to ask him something. She wonders if he would mind if she started a garden in the empty lot in front of their rooms. Nile teases, thinking that perhaps she plans to erect a large statue of him there. He reassures her that he does not mind. He then asks whether Charlotte had not promised to prepare farmland for her. She clarifies that she has already transplanted all of her crops to the farmland he provided yesterday, and the plan is already set in motion. Nearby, a dragon resides within a tower, and its presence is unmistakable. Yeoreum can hear the scorching fire of the dragon's breath whenever it becomes thrilled, and from the telltale scents and traces of char, she surmises that something exciting must have burned just yesterday. Her own crops, tragically, were reduced to nothing but ashes. He apologizes, fully aware that he should have kept the dragon under control. Yet she reassures him, insisting that it is not his fault. The loss is minor in the grand scheme of things. She carries her most precious and central tablets with her at all times, impervious to the flames. Still, her mind cannot help but wander to a whimsical fear that her corn, once so carefully tended, might have turned into popcorn. A fleeting thought crosses her, perhaps she may never save her popcorn again. Yet she quickly shakes off the concern. After all, it is ultimately not such a grave matter. As she contemplates planting fresh seeds, her attention is drawn to an empty lot directly in front of their rooms. The balance of the lot lies slightly further from the tower, allowing her to tend her crops without the looming threat of dragonfire. Meanwhile, the Lord's residence stands right in front of their rooms, granting her the convenience of monitoring her precious children without effort. She inquires politely, and he assures her without hesitation that she is free to use the land as she wishes, grateful that she has been his lifesaver. His apologies are profuse, though unnecessary, and he welcomes her to make use of the plot whenever needed. Curiously, she begins to observe him more closely, noting an odd familiarity in his features. He wonders aloud if something is amiss, prompting her to clarify that it is nothing, only that his appearance reminds her of someone she once knew. Naturally, he is far more handsome than the memory he evokes, and with that, she excuses herself, gathering her gardening tools. He stands there, utterly stunned, fixated on the striking resemblance to his own face, as if seeing himself reflected elsewhere. When Emma learns that Yeoreum is establishing a garden in front of Nile's residence, she is struck by disbelief. It seems almost inconceivable that Nile would allow such kindness to a commoner, especially when he had once vowed to keep that land empty forever, even declining her generous offer to erect a golden statue in its place. Yet now, he entrusts the land to a commoner, one who dares to cultivate it with diligence. Emma muses that it seems some people cannot abandon their habits, even after entering the palace, as farming had been Yeoreum's solitary occupation before this new chapter of her life. The palace ladies are equally flabbergasted. They whisper among themselves, bewildered that such a humble, unassuming girl has become Nile's fiancée. One observes that a noble should take no more than a single lady, and yet Nile's choice is Emma. The ladies debate the situation. Is it not the responsibility of a noble to educate a commoner, to teach her awareness of her proper station? They assert that she must be shown that any behavior unbecoming of her status could tarnish Nile's reputation. Still, they are at a loss as to how to approach the matter, for it cannot be managed with simple commands or assignments. Emma, however, possesses her own resolve. She understands that education does not always require a book. It can be imparted through careful guidance and practice. In places like the palace, where social hierarchies are rigid and rank determines conduct, the lessons must be tangible and demonstrative. She requests pen and paper from a maid, determined to personally instruct the girl on the nuances of rank and propriety. Through deliberate demonstration, Emma will ensure that the lesson is learned, showing in practice what the distinctions of status truly entail. Back at school, Yeoreum stretches contentedly, a small smile tugging at her lips. She feels a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that she can continue farming even at the palace. After all, what is the point of venturing to another world if she cannot cultivate the land she loves? The palace grounds are far more expansive than she had anticipated, leading her to wonder what else she might grow. Of course, her favorite tomatoes will be tended first, their bright fruits a symbol of her dedication and care. Her musings are interrupted by the sight of Nile approaching. Gathering her courage, she asks if she might pose a question regarding the choice between tomatoes and strawberries. Yet when she looks at him, she notices a strange numbness in his expression. Concern pricks at her heart, and she asks if something is wrong. He looks down, a shadow crossing his features, and she senses the weight of his thoughts. He explains that he has just returned from the teacher's office. The news is a simple B in one of his subjects, but the impact feels heavier than the grade alone suggests. Consistently scoring in the upper ranks is no small achievement, and she is certain that his parents would normally beam with pride. Still, a nagging doubt arises in his mind. Will they truly be proud of him now? In another world, he sighs in frustration, confiding in the dragon that his parents have a tendency to grade and scold in equal measure. Effort alone seems insufficient. If his parents do not recognize the time and dedication he invests, he wonders if mere presence and diligence can ever be enough. He recalls his mother's reaction. Upon learning he received a B, she had expressed disappointment that cut deeper than any grade could. His father's children had always earned straight A's, winning awards in a myriad of academic competition. His mother's words echoed in his ears. If he hopes to attend a top university, he must do more, and yet she remained disappointed in him. The weight of expectation presses heavily, yet there is no one to absolve him, no one to offer a reprieve. The next day, class is dismissed, and the female protagonist emerges from the store, delighting in the sweet treat of ice cream. Unlike the world they had come from, this realm offers a rich variety of flavors, a comforting indulgence she savors as she debates which to choose. Her attention is drawn to Nile, who sits alone, the weight of yesterday's frustration still etched on his face. Without hesitation, she approaches him, pressing the cold ice cream against his cheek. He flinches at the sudden contact, eyes widening in recognition. It is Yeoreum, and she plops onto the chair across from him with unrestrained energy. Observing his despondent expression, she cannot bear to leave her friend in the doldrums. With a playful smile, she offers him the ice cream, urging him to take it before it melts. This is a limited edition, sold sparingly, and she insists he enjoy it while it is at its peak. He bites into the treat, and the taste elicits a small, genuine smile. She leans forward, concerned and earnest, asking if he feels better now. Whenever she herself feels down, she explains, a sweet little indulgence never fails to lift her spirits. She has a long list of good restaurants to share, promising that they can visit together, sampling dishes like hot pot. Not that she wants him to be sad, only that her own cravings are strong, and happiness is best celebrated in company. Nile's laughter bubbles up. Back at the kingdom's library, Nile contemplates his parents' expectations and his own plan of action. Nothing has changed yet. Somehow, the world seems less oppressive than it once did. A door swings open, and the palace reveals its familiar splendor. The butler greets Nile warmly, relief in his voice, exclaiming that Nile has arrived on time, a worry finally laid to rest. The butler's eyes flicker to Nile's attire, curiosity mingling with amusement. Today, Nile is expected to make a grand entrance, and his casual dress seems wholly inadequate for the occasion. Confused, Nile questions what the butler means, and the explanation arrives swiftly. Today is the grand banquet hosted by Duke Charles. Nile realizes too late that he should have paid closer attention. Dressed as a commoner, he doubts he possesses a proper ball gown or attire suitable for the palace occasion. Around him, the festivities unfold in opulent grandeur, guests mingling and enjoying the sumptuous banquet. An announcement calls the crowd to attention, heralding the arrival of the esteemed Sir Nile. At the Graves Manor, Emma carefully selects a necklace and a pair of earrings, each piece shimmering brilliantly against her poised figure. Every accessory complements her appearance perfectly, accentuating an elegance and allure that seems innate to her. Even if a commoner from a nearby village were to dress in similarly luxurious attire, it would be a futile attempt, akin to placing lipstick on a pig. Emma's obedient elegance, coupled with the wealth and power that radiate from her, ensures that anyone standing beside her would pale in comparison. She anticipates with subtle satisfaction the humiliation that might befall those who dare to measure themselves against her presence.